and a slam jam.
Hello, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, my bad. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling, man. So what's the deal? Why are you here? What role you play? What MMR? Tell me about yourself, sir.
So I'm 4.9k. I play position 1, and I was 5.8k just like 2 weeks ago, and that was a huge spiral downwards. So
Wait, so you're 5.8k and now you're what, sorry?
I was 5.8k and now I'm 4.9k.
Okay, so you okay, that's quite a drop. Okay. In what role, sorry?
Position 1.
Okay. Yeah, you're for whatever reason, I don't know if it's your voice settings, but you're cutting out slightly every now and then, so like I hear the majority of your sentence, but then random stuff cuts out. Okay, so do you have any idea to yourself like why this happened?
I think it might be this most recent patch. This was particularly confusing. This like always fighting instead of farming, like it makes it much more difficult to decide what to do, right? And
Absolutely, I agree.
the like theoretical side of Dota is something that I'm weaker at than the mechanical. So
Okay, I believe you on that one. My question would be like, what was your MMR gain across like the last like year? You know?
I think I was around 4.2k a while back, but then since this quarantine and all that, it shot up a lot. Like I think like 2 months ago it shot up 600 and then just gradually until recently.
So before that, you were kind of just stagnant around 4K.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm just getting an idea of like, did you shoot up recently and then shoot back down? So that's kind of what's happened.
It was a little bit of a jump, but the downward spike was much more, so
Well, you came out on top, if you know what I mean. Like you started at 42, you shot up to 5,800, maybe in a couple bursts or whatever, but now you've obviously shot back down. I will say, to that immediate note, that I'll take this time to shout out my pub teammates, where for whatever reason, last patch, like 7.24, 7.25, I tried playing offlane because it felt like I was trying to play carry. I had to farm, and my offlane in return had to do things. And for whatever reason, offlaners that patch just had no semblance of an idea what it meant to like do stuff on the map, and I got really frustrated. So I moved to offlane. This patch, I'm playing offlane. I was playing offlane, and I was like, oh, it's my job to make space, and it's my carry's job to like kind of farm, but also like participate in the game a lot. And it felt like the majority of my carry players, even in like the 6, 7K, 8K bracket, just had no fucking clue what they were doing. Like they actually just had no clue what they were doing in this patch.
yeah.
I'm not just saying that to like make you feel better. I legitimately moved to carry this patch because of this feeling that I had where I was like, why is it that it feels like every carry player has just forgotten how to play carry? Like that's what it kind of felt like to me. This is like a unique patch. It's been a while since it's looked like this. For the carry role, and I can get that a lot of carry players would struggle if, I compare this to my 6.83 days, where that one patch I was like really good at the game of Dota, and then the minute the way the game of Dota was changed, it just showed that I wasn't an overall good player. I was just good at that specific way to play, and then it just showed, right? Like I went from one patch where I was like top 10. Unstoppable, and then suddenly I was just this like shitty rank 150 guy, after that. So pretty drastic drop for me back then. I kind of went on a little tangent here for you, but I'm simply telling you and everyone else that I do know what you're saying, and I know what this patch is about, so hopefully we can see in your play that you're kind of stuck in the old patches maybe a bit, and go from there. So do you have any other quick questions before we load up these replays, sir?
Well, just like in general, do you think picking against their heroes or picking heroes that I'm more comfortable with is better?
First question, who are you in this game?
I am the anti-mage.
Okay. Interesting that you brought me an anti-mage replay in this patch. But okay, so I've seen anti-mages in my games. A bit of a tough hero in my opinion to pull off right now. Like he's very situational. I'm gonna go through this draft and answer your question. I'm actually gonna look and see when you draft. Do you remember when you drafted this?
Uh, the hero, like
Yeah,
when I
you
picked.
drafted absolute last against Bristle Lycan.
Yeah.
So I'll just say first and foremost, I think you're freaking nuts for picking Anti-Mage this game. If you guys win, so be it. So I would put in this current patch, there's very few carries that I feel comfortable picking that are not fighters. Um, like I'd say Anti-Mage and like PA are two of the most notable ones that seem viable, but a bit difficult to pull off because they don't fight early, right? Like both of them want at least a Battle Fury. Maybe for PA she can go Deso, but even then she doesn't really want to fight immediately on the Deso. She usually wants to get like 2 items, and for Anti-Mage she usually wants at least Battle Fury Manta. Um, and that, like at that point in the game, a lot's already happened. So my answer to you in terms of like picking against their heroes and whatnot is that I'm going to look at their lineup with you for a second and we'll talk about the draft, okay?
Okay.
So, how many heroes, okay, like be honest with me and be honest with yourself. Like, you know, I've kind of been in denial some points in my career. How many heroes do you feel are at like your top potential as a carry player? Like if the hero was picked, you'd play it at top potential for your MMR, like, you know, it represents your MMR. You know what I mean?
I'd say 6. I would say 6 heroes.
Okay, what are those?
I would say Lycan. I would say Anti-Mage. I would say Luna. I would say Chaos Knight. Arc Warden, and I think and Lone Druid.
Okay. And those are the like any other carry you had to pick, you'd say like it would not be you playing it optimally?
Oh, and Faceless Void. Yes, any other character would be worse.
Okay, I just typed him in Discord for my own reference. And if you have a problem with that list at all, just tell me.
Okay.
So I don't think that's too uncommon. I had a really small hero pool up until like 4 or 5 years ago, and I hit like 6, 7K doing that. And I'll just say that a lot of these things, I feel like I'm kind of, I don't want to say bestowing wisdom upon other people, but like I've gone through this issue, right? I've realized the limitations of not being able to play every hero. And like nowadays, I'm kind of at that point where like there's those like 2 or 3 heroes left. In my case, it's like Naga and Morphling, where I'm just like, if I can't play these heroes in the perfect game, sometimes I just don't have a hero I can pick because those are like 2 of the only heroes I could really pick that would be good for the game. And it puts me in this really weird spot maybe once every 5 to 10 games, not 5, once every 10 or 15 games, where since I can't pick that hero, I'm like in this rough spot that I have to just kind of go with a comfort pick, and usually that leads to the game obviously being harder than it would otherwise be. So my answer to you is I think that's not enough heroes to be content with for the time being. I don't want you to worry about your hero pool necessarily, but I've talked about this on other coaching sessions too. I think it's a huge deal that you take like one meta hero right now and just learn it. Every meta you should do that if you want to extend your hero pool. So in the carry role, I'm looking at your carries, and let me get through this draft real quick. Okay. So I'm looking at your carry heroes, and I'm looking at this game. So we saw in the draft that you saw all their heroes but Monkey King. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So give me your best description of what Tusk, Shadow Shaman, Lycan, Bristle represent as a unit of 4. Like, what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Anything you can tell me.
They obviously have a lot of push with the Lycan and the Shadow Shaman. They have a lot of lane dominators with the Lycan, Bristleback, and Tusk. They have a lot of catch, but they don't have a lot of mobility without Lycan ult.
Okay.
I would say they need several items. They need damage, right? Like without Lycan ult, then they have no damage really. And these fights would be kind of long and drawn out. They wouldn't be kind of quick fire.
What type of damage do they have?
It would be physical. It would all
In the form of AoE, single target?
Well, the bristleback would be the only pretty much AoE, and everything else would be single target.
Okay. So if you're telling me that all of the damage of the opponent is single target physical damage, would you tell me that Anti-Mage is a good pick?
Probably not.
Okay, so like that's what I was initially looking at, right? Like, so when I say you picked Anti-Mage here, and I'm like, damn, like that's crazy. I instantly think to myself when I was talking about PA and Anti-Mage, I didn't really finish my point. I'm looking at these heroes to be like incredibly situational because they don't want to fight early. So I look for the situations where that hero is like really good, and I'm not going to be super forced to fight early. So I look at their draft and I say they have single target physical damage, which scales very well against Anti-Mage, and they have early game push and early game brawlers, which is also good against Anti-Mage. So like I wouldn't have picked Anti-Mage here even if I was like, you know, a level 25 Dota plus Anti-Mage player. Like I just wouldn't have picked it. And I think a lot about your draft sense will tell you about your, like you came into this saying you feel like your mechanics are better than your theoretical approach to Dota. And looking at picks and heroes and stuff can, like, in the way I'm going to talk to you about these drafts, can help you a lot with this in terms of the game. So, like, part of this theoretical part of Dota is, like, picking your hero and saying, okay, I have an idea of when I'm going to have to fight. I have an idea of when I'm going to fight. I have an idea of, like, what items I'm going to build. I have an idea of what the game's going to look like. And that fits this hero really well. So that's something that you can start thinking about. Like, that's the way that, like, AK plus players start thinking about. I've really realized that in the recent past, where it's not enough to just be like, this is a good lane matchup. You know, this is a good carry to carry matchup. Those type of things are relevant, and that's something you should obviously think about. But like in this game, I look at their 4 heroes and I see very little catch early. Like, their catch early is Snowball. Shadow Shaman's really not catch early, right? Like,
right.
He needs like Ether Lens, maybe a blink, and then he's really scary. So like for the first 20 minutes of the game, I'm not all too concerned about Shadow Shaman. So I'm kind of thinking to myself that they have heavy single target physical damage and their only catch is Snowball. What carry would come to mind to you if I tell you heavy single target physical damage with their only catch being Snowball? Anything? Like, not of your hero pool, but anything? I'll show you the list here.
I would Juggernaut, maybe?
So when I say single target physical damage, what does that usually tell you is good against that?
Armor.
Okay,
armor.
And it's single target.
I'm not sure.
Illusion heroes.
Okay, illusion.
Okay, and then their only catch is Snowball. So what illusion hero in the game just will never die to Snowball?
Phantom Lancer.
Yeah, this is like a 10 out of 10 PL game. Like, it's not even close. This is like the freest PL game in the history of Dota, like, actually. Monkey King's like kind of good against you, but obviously you can't see his pick. But you're really good against Shadow Shaman because illusions do full damage to wards, so they just kill those instantly. Tusk is single target, Lycan's single target. Bristleback, yeah, he has quills, but it just doesn't matter to like high armor illusion heroes. They don't care about quills. So this is an example where like your MMR would just be way higher if you played PL. Like, I know that sounds like such a cop-out here, but it really is, in my opinion, something that's become more and more important to me. Like, that if I don't feel like I can play a meta hero, especially when I was practicing offlane and stuff, I just played it like 10, 15 times in a row. I think PL right now, I wouldn't say is like hyper meta, like he's not like broken, but I think all of the illusion heroes right now, PL, Naga, and Terrorblade, are really important to be able to play. I think there's enough of these like all-in physical damage lineups that just don't do anything to you. That I felt have, like, there's a lot of Beastmaster offlanes. There's a lot of like Bristlebacks, even Lycans I've seen plenty of. Tusk I've seen plenty of. And like Anti-Mage to me looks rough here. We're gonna watch the game play out so we can talk about it, obviously. But I always go a bit over the hour, so I like to spend that extra 30 minutes kind of choosing what to talk about. And with you, I would like to choose to talk about this whole drafting thing. So when it looks like, to me, I would say this meta, looking at your hero list, you have CK, but he's not really a standard illusion hero. I would say like he's more of like a brawler than like an illusion hero. I would say you need to add at least one illusion hero, Terrorblade, Naga, or PL. That's really up to you which one you want to add, but I really think you need one of those. Eventually, what you'll realize is like the weakness of Terrorblade is he can't play into PL. So the games where like you want to play Terrorblade, but you're scared of getting PL'd and you'll just lose, then like you know what I mean? Like, well, you'll realize the limitations of only having one illusion hero in your pool. And then eventually you can add to it. But like right now, in the immediate future, I would add an illusion hero. And let me look at the rest of your heroes. Okay. I would add something like Slark, Ricky, or let me see here. So like I put Luna and Drouse in a similar position. Like they're both position-based, squishy ranged heroes in the early game, so I put them kind of similarly. I'd put like Ricky or Slark or like Weaver in there, like an elusive, low cooldown skirmisher, like something like that, like those type of heroes. I would add at least one of those to your hero pool, and I'm emphasizing to you that like I don't think you need to add 10 heroes to your pool in the near future. But if you add one at a time and having those be as versatile as possible, it will really help you be just an overall better player. Like for me, I always struggled with specific concepts of heroes. I realized in the offlane I couldn't play like Nature's Prophet, Enchantress, and shit. And I learned after playing them like 20 games total between the two that the key to those heroes is they don't really have power spikes. They don't have like go times. They kind of just consistently do the same thing throughout the course of the game. And like the key to playing those heroes is just chilling and like taking the opportunities that are given to you, because they're always strong heroes, but they're never the strongest. So I'm just like, oh, like if I'm allowed to take a tower with Prophet, I go take it. It's like if I'm an Enchantress and I'm allowed to like walk to a specific part of the map and be unkillable, I just go do that. Otherwise, I go chill on this side of the map. You know, like I realized I was trying to get too much done on those heroes, and so I'm emphasizing to you to add different types of heroes to your pool, because you'll learn whole new parts of the game that you just don't know because you don't play them. I also know that if I learn to play a hero, I also know how to play against it better. So when it's on the other team, I know very well what I'm supposed to do in response to them picking it. So before I move on from there, is there any questions you have about that?
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So just do it slowly. Like I'm saying, like one hero at a time. Like I want you to play maybe 15 to 20 games of PL, and then or like whatever one you choose. And then after that, you'll have a decent sense of like maybe watch like one or two replays prior, just to get a general sense of the parts of the map they play, when people pick it, like lane matchup wise, like just to get a general idea, so you don't go in just raw dogging it. You know, you have no idea what to. You're just kind of like pushing buttons and hoping for the best. After those like 15 to 20 games, I think you'll be surprised how much your understanding of the hero will have grown just by like facing natural problems. You know, you'll be like, oh, I can't show this long on creep waves. Oh, like I can be more efficient with my illusions. Oh, you know, like if I have Diffusal in this game, I felt really strong, but in this other game, I felt really weak after just getting Diffusal. That kind of stuff. And then from there, once you've done this on those like 2 or 3 heroes, you can start picking them when you think they're good and see how that pays off for you. Like in this game, I would have picked PL personally. I think like any of the illusion heroes would have been okay, but I think PL was by far the best. So, okay, let's go ahead and play the game out though, so we can talk about what we see in the game. I'll probably be highlighting draft-related things, and I'll be talking about Anti-Mage as a hero as well, conceptually. And like any struggles you face, any things that are good for you, we can talk about them. But I really do, based on your coming into this session and what I know about your bracket, I really am going to focus on the drafting heavy aspect of this game, like the strategic part of it. Like the draft goes into that, but obviously the draft's over. Now that we've got our hero, what are we going to do? I think it's going to be really hard for you to scale this game, like I said, against these heavy single target physical damage heroes. I think you're pretty much going to have to pick and choose your fights really carefully. They do lack catch, so that you have that going for you. And since they have push, I think it's really important that you're threatening objectives as often as you think you can in this game. If you ever can. Anti-Mage is a bit weird because him and PA, I grouped them together, not only because they like to wait to fight, but if you compare them to like a Jug, while they're farming, they're not ever pushing towers. Like, they're not ever creating space. So, like, even though a hero like Jug may look to not fight, he could still be pressuring towers on the opposite side of the map. PA Anti-Mage, they just don't pressure towers. So that aspect of the game is even harder to overcome when the opponent has these like strong push lineups. But okay, so you're against Bristle, you want Stick, makes sense. Gonna hit him a lot. Okay, it's good so far. I'm gonna unmute this real quick. Wanted it muted because it was a bit loud, but I'm sure people watching appreciate Dota sounds. Okay.
First blood. Thanks and have fun.
Blood stains the banners.
Do you struggle against Bristleback in general? I'm just got a curiosity about that.
Not really, right? Like usually it's a pretty easy matchup for me.
Okay, between Anti-Mage and Bristle?
Usually they're too aggressive and they make mistakes, and I can get them.
Okay, so I'm going to bring an approach to you about laning in general, and I want you to do your best to pass this session to think about how this applies to other matchups, okay?
Okay.
So when in general, like Bristleback's power spikes, like what are they?
His level 3.
Yeah, level 3 is big. Level 6 is pretty big. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's pretty
okay.
big.
And like I'd say level 3 is his biggest, and like he still gets pretty strong with just levels, right? Like level 4, 5, 6, he's still pretty. He's gradually getting more powerful.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
And would you say Anti-Mage gets more powerful from like level 3 to 6, purely based on levels?
Maybe at level 6, but
not really, right? Anti-Mage is one of like the worst level scaling heroes early game, right? He's almost all about the farm and establishing that advantage. But when I look at Bristleback, I think to myself, like people ask me what to pick against Bristle, and I'm gonna try to start labeling these matchups in a way that is universal, not just to the specific one we're looking at. So I look at Bristle and I say that once he gets level like 3 through 6, what's he do with that? Like, what is his source of power? Is he like killing your tower? Is he threatening you? Like, what is he doing to you?
Well, he can either threaten me or farm really fast. I think those are his two options, right?
Okay.
Like he can,
continue.
He can like pull it into the camps and farm both the lane and the camps and stuff like that.
Okay. Would you agree that like the average carry, say you're like a troll warlord or a jug or something that has like an innate farming mechanic, would you say the average carry, if like a level ahead of Bristle, would outfarm them? Would outfarm Bristle? Like if both of them were hitting creeps, who would farm faster?
I think the Bristleback.
It's really close, but to be honest with you, if you're ahead on a hero like Troll, you will outfarm Bristle. Like, Bristle's farming speed is very flat, okay? Like, it's very flat. It doesn't go up with items. Do you realize that, right? If you think about it, like,
it's a spell.
It's all his W. So when I look at Bristle, my goal is to get to a point in the lane where both of us are just farming, and I don't give a shit that he exists. Because he's farming. Is there really much that most carries can do about that?
Most carries, no.
No, I'd say the majority of carries in the majority of games, even heroes like Ursa, the majority of the time, really can't stop Bristle from farming super early. Like, once he gets level 5, he's going to spam W on creeps. It's going to hurt. Like, most heroes can't tank through quills. It's going to hurt, and he's going to farm the jungle and stuff too. And so I like to be a hero that I'm thinking to myself, well, this hero doesn't scale at all with farm in terms of his farming speed. So I just pick a hero that does scale with items in terms of farming speed, but also can fight him at like level 5, because that's like what he's good at. Like that's what Bristleback's gonna do. And when I envision like Bristle versus Anti-Mage, unless you like shit stomp this guy, when he's level 5, you're getting shoved out of lane.
Okay.
Like that's how I envision the lane. Like you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying you're get like sent back to base, but if he like continuously spams W on you, eventually you're going to run out of regen. You know, like you're going to be forced to jungle. You're not going to want to be in that lane. I like to pick like my most notable pick against Bristle is like Troll, Terrorblade. You know, these heroes that just don't care about him spamming quills on you. Like I just don't care because I have 12 armor and like I'll rotate between lane and jungle defending my tower. Anti-Mage doesn't feel that powerful to me because you can't really jungle until like 7-8 minutes maybe, you know, like you want like Tread's Wraithband before you're really hitting jungle camps. So I'm only mentioning this to you because I want you to think about how lane, like what heroes do with their levels and like how they scale through the lane, what their lane's gonna look like. Like you gave me a pretty accurate description of like what Bristle's gonna do. Like that's what he's gonna do. And as long as you defend your tower against Bristle and it's not like a nuisance to come back to lane, I really don't care about laning against Bristle, even if he's more powerful than I am. Like if you watch my Troll Warlord game I remember playing, I would be jungling the camps, and then when my Bristle pushed it near my tower, I would walk up to the wave, whirling axe it. He'd be like gooing me and hitting me, and I would just be killing the creeps. And I'm like, die creeps. And then once the creeps are dead, I just leave. I just walk away. I think the most annoying thing after playing Bristle is carries that just ignore me. Like they actually just don't give a shit that I'm in their lane. Like all the illusion heroes are super annoying. Like, a lot of people think of Bristle as, like, I'm going to pick Ursa and kill him. I'm like, I don't even give a shit about killing this guy. If I make it to, like, 15 minutes with absolute free farm, this Bristle's just not a problem to me. Like, I have a problem with Bristle if he's, like, shoving me out of lane, and I'm forced to jungle. He takes my tier 1 at, like, 8 minutes because of his ult, like, the free damage he gets. That's when Bristleback feels like absolute cancer to me as a safe laner. So I'm talking about this when I think of, like, every single offlaner in the game. It's like, if I'm looking at Beastmaster, what do you think of Beastmaster's power spikes? Like, what are they?
Well, his level 3, 5, and 6.
It's mainly 6, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like, the 3 and 5 are kind of similar to Bristle, where, like, yeah, his 5 and 6 are nice, but, like, his main power spike's 6. And, like, what does 6 usually mean for you as a carry?
Can't be in the lane.
Yeah, so what kind of hero do you generally want to pick against Beastmaster?
That doesn't have to be in the lane.
Yeah, when he's level 6, right? Like that. Like my goal, like that's the overall description, like of the laning matchup for Beastmaster. It's like, and then at that point, I don't like playing heroes that have to show on lanes all the time because Beastmaster is like really freaking scary. If I'm like, any melee hero that just dies to Aurora or any ranged hero that just died to Aurora, I don't really want to be showing in lane against Beastmaster. So I either like heroes like Slark that can survivably show in lane, or heroes like these illusion heroes that can just send illusions to the lane rather than being in the lane itself, I'm just giving you an example. It's like, this is how I think about these heroes. If I pick a hero that can't go to jungle when Beastmaster's 6, like, that just sucks, Like, I'll never pick Anti-Mage into Beastmaster, Like, I would never pick, like, carry Clinks into Beastmaster. Somebody told me to pick carry Razor into Beastmaster. You're fucking high. I would never pick carry Razor into Beastmaster. If that Beastmaster gets 6 and I'm not ready to jungle yet, my game's fucking over. I'm usually not going to pick Ricky into Beastmaster. I'm not going to pick PA into Beastmaster. I'm not going to pick... I'd say Voices Void into Beastmaster. I'm not going to pick... I'm just naming heroes that don't want to jungle. They don't want to hit creeps at... They don't want to go hit jungle creeps at the time Beastmaster is level 6. I'm just giving you examples, like, when I envision the lane playing out. And this is something you can start visioning for your game this early on. And then you can start applying this thought process to, like, the 15, 20-minute mark. When we start talking about carry matchups, like, why certain ones are good against others. It's like, if this hero's power spike is 20 minutes... and so is mine, and my hero just scales well against it. A perfect example would be PA against Anti-Mage. Like, both heroes do nothing in the early game. They want to just get like 1 or 2 items. And then when both of them have 2 items, who's better in that matchup? PA, right? So PA is like the definition of like a hard fucking counter, because there's no point in the game where Anti-Mage is like happy to play that matchup. There's no power spike for Anti-Mage that favors him. Like, unless PA, the only win condition for Anti-Mage is winning his lane and PA getting dumpstered. Like, that's like the only win condition for Anti-Mage. So I'm just giving that's like a very basic example where the power spike leveling up with each other, or like lining up with each other, just makes no sense for Anti-Mage to ever want to play that matchup. So I know I went on a long rant there. We're going to make sure, obviously, I get through both of your games and shit, however long it takes. But this is something I don't get to talk about too often. The one thing I will say about Bristle, I almost always buy a salve, especially if I feel like I have to hit him level 1. Like, if I'm like a Slark and I feel like the way I win the lane is hitting him a bunch level 1. If I'm an Anti-Mage and I feel like the way I win the lane is hitting him a lot level 1. because against Bristle and like a lot of other offlaners that you have to hit a lot, you're naturally going to take a shit ton of damage by just hitting them. And if you don't have that salve to replenish right now, you know, suddenly the lane gets real weird. So that's like an envision of like, oh, to win this matchup, I want to hit him a lot level 1. When I hit him a lot level 1, I'm going to take a lot of damage. If I take all that damage and I don't have a salve, now what? You know, this feels really awkward. You know, you're 94 HP anti-mage with no salve, and your Jakiro has no salve. So suddenly this Bristle is going to have... Okay, well, I'm out. I'm not playing. Jesus. I was like, why is this not over yet? Okay. Sorry. Boomer moment there. Okay. So Bristleback managed to overextend there, which was nice of him. Did he not have a salve either? He didn't have a salve either. Okay. So to give a perfect example, like, I don't think I'm a great anti-mage player, but I think I have a pretty good understanding of his landing stage. When I watched a lot of anti-mage when he was like super popular like a year ago, maybe a year or two, what I noticed, it was like a Lich Grim meta. Where Lich would like frost armor you and Grim would ink swell you, and whatever carry could capitalize on that was like the most powerful carry of that meta. And I realized the thing about anti-mage that makes him strong is being allowed to hit people. Like, if he's allowed to walk at the opponent and hit them. And the opponent, rather than fighting back, has to be scared of you. Anti-mage's base stats aren't very good. Like, base health, base armor, like his base damage, they really aren't that great. But he's super obnoxious if he burns all your mana and you can't fight back with spells, right? So, I just want you to notice what's happened in this lane every time you hit them. What happens?
Our healths go down, right?
Yeah, but they're hitting you back, right? Say it again?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, and like imagine if that's like a intelligence offlaner or like a Tidehunter who has 50 base damage and no way to really trade with you. Like these type of heroes, they just can't fight you. Like they can't trade back with you. And if your support was like, you know, the Lich type or like an Ogre type that's walking in front of you, you know, does Jakiro really want to play in front of you? Not really, no, right? Like, he's like a tanky support, but at the same time, if he's like too far up against Tusk Bristle, he's kind of just gonna like take a bajillion damage. So, I'm just giving you like the weaknesses and strengths that I generally see when I look at these heroes. Like, with Anti-Mage, I'm scared that they're just gonna hit me back. That's what I don't want them to be allowed to do. And so, I go into the lane envisioning, if I pick Anti-Mage, would they be allowed to just hit me back? And if the answer is yes, I don't really like the hero for the laning stage. And I think you're seeing how it's playing out here. Like, even if you are having an okay lane, you're not by no means free farming, you're ferrying out a ton of regen, and like if we compare it to the Lycan CS, obviously you're down by 2 or 3. So that's what I mean by you're not, like, it's not like you're playing this lane terribly, it's not like you're losing. You're just, none of this feels good, you know? Like, I don't look at this and be like, man, this is a great 10th pick anti-mage game, you know? And if we can get you to pick, excuse me, the right hero for the game more often, these type of things just don't become problems anymore. And I know that it's not enough to just tell you about the draft, but I want to keep trying to give you as many reasons as I can, like, give that I usually describe things to myself in where now where like I come to the conclusion of what the right hero on the lane is. Okay, so this is obviously a good move. Anytime Tusk is gone, great. Like, notice if the guy's not allowed to hit you back, this hero's real scary. I know it seems so simple, but it really is like anti-mage's condition here. So your support goes and pulls, great. You're pulling the lane back. Lane equilibrium management's good. You're gonna hit him more, but once again, like, none of this feels good. You're gonna buy yourself another Wraith Band. I would have considered maybe going for that earlier Ring of Health. We just don't want to spend too much on regen. I know you're going to take damage. Like, certain lanes you like, can I play more passively? Certain lanes you think, like, can I do something that dodges damage? I think in this lane, whether or not you play passively, whether or not you play aggressively, you're going to take damage. At that point, when I'm viewing these heroes, my decision is, am I going to buy myself a shit ton of tangos and salves? Or is there like a reasonable item to go? Maybe Ring of Health's not enough. You had the Ring of Regen queued up. For you, that kind of comes down to understanding the matchup and figuring it out. But I don't if avoidable, I never try to put myself in these matchups. Like, I don't want to be in these types of matchups. If I get picked into it, so be it. Like, meaning I pick and the other guy counters me or whatever. I don't mind. Like, you know, you have to adjust accordingly. But your overall aggression on this Bristle has been good. I think the only reason this is working is for whatever reason the Tusk just left. I really have no idea why. I could have, like, gone back and looked and seen what this Tusk did. But as, like, an educational tidbit for you, I assure you in the AK bracket that Tusk is not leaving. Like, he's not gonna do that, because if you look at this lane matchup as like a 2v2, if Bristle's alone and he's getting breathe fired and hit by anti-mage, he's just fucked. But if Tusk is right there and suddenly he tag teams you guys, like, that Bristle's a huge threat, you guys can't be nearly as aggressive. This is like an incredibly snowbally matchup between the two cores, where one core is going to heavily bully the other. It's just a matter of who's going to do it. You know, this matchup is never going to go even. You and Bristle, it's never going to be an even matchup. Like, you're either bullying him or he's bullying you. One of the two. And this Tusk leaving kind of just handed you this lane. So all of the things that I told you are weak about your lane are actually completely irrelevant this game because this Tusk just left. And as like a 4 position, it's oftentimes important to think, like, if I leave, what's my offlaner going to do without me? How are they going to do? And in your case, you want to assume the guy's going to do the right thing. You don't want to rely on the opponent supports doing this kind of stuff. It's like the minute he comes back, even when they're behind in lane, they're still able to be pretty strong against you. Yeah, you might have overextended a bit there. Maybe you're trying to be a bit overly aggressive. But even then, if this isn't an option for you as anti-mage, it feels pretty bad. That's all I'm getting at. So we're going to keep playing it out. You are level 6. Your farm's pretty good, all things considered. Going for the treads. You're continuing the aggression. The Tusk hasn't learned his lesson yet. It's fine. You're capitalizing on the Tusk being bad. I think the maxed out mana burn's a little crazy. I think usually people just leave 2 points, but I haven't paid attention to this specific patch. Bristle's only got like 400 mana? Yeah, 400 mana, so... Yeah, you know what? If you think it's a Bristleback matchup related thing, is that what it is, or do you do this every game?
I thought hitting him with more mana burn, but...
I could see it against Bristle. You know what? I'm not going to argue with you. If you had a reason for it against Bristle specifically here, I can see it. I can see it. Okay. So... Now what?
Oh, yeah. Weird.
Another thing to think about. I'm just telling you. So you played the proper way here. What was wrong with what the opponent team did there?
They were showing, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't near their Bristleback.
Yeah, they just came top and then just left them again, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go through a ton of things this game, and I hate to use you for this, but I'm gonna use this replay also to teach people in chat about other roles here. But it is something as a carry I think is necessary for you to think about. So at this stage in the game, would you agree that, like, in any farming hero, any hero in general, it's nice to just have as many options as possible for where you can go on the map, right? Would you agree with that? Like, anywhere, like, yeah. You want to be able to choose, ideally speaking, between all 3 lanes, both jungles, you know, you want to be able to choose what's best for you. So as an anti-mage, would you say at this point in the game you're primarily playing lanes or jungle? Ideally.
Ideally, the lanes.
Okay, ideally the lanes. In most games, what are you stuck doing? Yeah, so... Sorry, I just have to clear my throat. I don't know what's wrong here. Okay, so... That's something I think about with every hero. I think, like, would they ideally play lanes? Would they ideally play jungle? What are their general strengths in terms of playing lanes? So my question is, if they brought 3 heroes to your lane, what do you do here? Like, if they brought both supports and just camped your lane, what do you do?
Would either have to go to another lane or to jungle.
If you go bottom against Lycan, does that feel good?
6? No.
Okay. Do you want to go mid against Monkey King? Okay. So, in terms of the draft, in terms of a vision for myself, I do think about my rotations in the pick. Like, I think, like, this is how this hero will generally want to play. Like, if I pick it, this is what their heroes do. So, like, I am doing a new series. I will implore you to actually watch it because I think it'll help you a lot. I'm going to be doing once a week. I analyze every game I play for like a minute. Like, it's going to be like a 5-minute video where I just talk about why I picked my hero. And it's going to be like a lot of the stuff I'm going through with you right now. It's going to be on YouTube. It's absolutely free, everything like that. I'm not trying to, like, shill out my new series. I just think you'll get a lot of examples of what I'm telling you now to study, and it'll be very short for you, very quick. So I'm looking at this, and I say, like, I want to play lanes. If I have 3 heroes show up in my lane this game, I'm stuck jungling. That's what I'm stuck doing, and I don't want that as anti-mage. So it's like, when I pick anti-mage, I love games where I look at their cores, and, like, I'm happy to show in lane against one of them. At least one of them. I'm like, okay, so, say their carry was a Spectre, or their carry was... Say their carry was a jungling hero, and their support was likely to take over the lane. Or, I'm giving you an example, but, like, anti-mage in general against carries doesn't really want a lane. That's, like, why it's harder to find lanes for this hero to go to. But, like, if I'm talking about, like, a hero, for instance, Troll Warlord, any carry that relies on right-click trading, I'll lane against it. Like, I'll walk into his lane with Whirling Axes and not give a shit that he exists, kind of thing. But the point being is, I like to have this vision of where I'm going to go at the 10-minute mark, based on what the opponent's going to do. Like, I'm always willing to stay in my lane. Like I told you, you want to look for lanes, and if you can't go to lanes, you're going to jungle, that. So, if you know that about Anti-Mage, which I know you do, you can start looking at the drafts and thinking about that. So it's like, I look at their lanes and I'm like, well, Lycan's not a hero most heroes want to lane against. Neither's Bristle. And the 2 supports also amp up those heroes with threats. So ideally, I want a hero that's going to be able to show in lanes sometimes, but also rotate between jungle and lane. Like, that goes with their heroes being picked. Like, I see that. If they have weak lane showers, like, you just think about heroes that don't want to be in lane, don't want to do that, I'm much more willing to pick heroes that are reliant upon being in a lane. Like, that's something I'm going to account for in my pick. But right now, so they left you alone again, you kill them. I'm just making sure you see, like, this is really only working, in my opinion, because the opponent just isn't playing around you. Like, they're just not trying to shut you down. And even then, you are still playing the lane. So, like, for me, I would just never want to lane against Monkey King. I don't do anything to this hero. I wouldn't want to lane directly against Bristle as long as he has any help. I'm in this situation where none of their cores, in, like, an equal amount of heroes, feels good for me. Meaning, like, you have 2 supports or 1 support, they have 1 support. None of that ever feels good in this game. The only contribution I think you have to this, like, early to mid game is if one of their cores has proven themselves to be alone and your teammates are there to gank them. And you want to, like, blink in and contribute a few right clicks. And then why are you actually at the fight, though? Like, say you guys 3-man ganked the Lycan. Why would you be there?
Sap some golden experience.
Really. You want the lane, right? Like, yeah. That's why you're doing it. You're a hero that wants to lane, you want to farm, and the only reason you would go for kills is to get a lane. Like, you're not taking a kill in order to, secure an objective or some shit. That's not what Anti-Mage is doing. Your objective right now is to farm. The best farm for you is lanes. So if you're going for an objective in terms of, like, killing people, it's for a lane. And so it's like, for me, I look at this and say, Bristle's dead. The mid laner has rotated in my lane. What do I do now? I personally would just, like, TP to mid. I would just get out of here and TP mid because their Bristle's dead for 15 seconds. Their mid laner's top. I have, like, 15 seconds that I can clear this mid wave where it's 10:08 right now on the game clock. So the creep waves are going to meet at 10:15. By the time Bristle's alive, I've probably killed most of those creeps. And then I'm going to, like, blink myself into a jungle. But, like, my entire thought process for what I'm doing is based on what I know Anti-Mage wants to do in the game and based on, like, looking for the core opportunities for me to do it. And I know I don't want to show in lane against any of these 3 cores. And I know I only want to gank them. Like, that, like, meaning I only want to contribute if it's, like, 3v1 or, like, 4v2 or something. Even here, it's 3v2 and it's just not enough, right? Like, your hero compared to Monkey King is so weak that even though you have 2 supports, it just doesn't shift the balance of this core matchup at all. Like, it just doesn't change it. So that's an example where if you have this idea, every time you see something, like you see the opponent mid rotating to your lane, and you're like, okay, thanks, there's a mid lane for me now. Against like really good players, that mid laner might even just immediately TP and follow you. Like they might just immediately do that. And then in that case, hey, even though you're farming, you've at least forced the opponent mid to rotate. You've forced that guy to do a lot of things to chase you. And that's something sometimes that's like the most impactful role you as a carry can have. But in this case, like, your hero, like I said, single target physical damage, never feels strong to play anti-mage against. That was rough. You went kaplat. You just died instantly. So now you're TPing back top. Let's see what happens here.
I do feel a little bit sedentary. Like, I feel forced almost by myself to win a lane, right? Like, in this top lane. I want...
Don't you feel forced to battle your way through this lane? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I feel like that's a good thing to fight these guys and get something from it, right? Because I feel like if I were to just jungle, it would be destructive for the rest of my...
Okay. So is it your job to make space for your team or vice versa?
Well, vice versa, right?
Okay. So in your bracket, the reason why I say this, like, I don't mean to interrupt you here. The reason why I say this to you out loud is because, in my opinion, the only way to climb is heroes that make space for themselves or heroes that can farm in a way that makes space. Like for me, Jug makes space when he farms. Anti-Mage doesn't make space when he farms. When I play Anti-Mage PA, I'm always dependent upon my team to go do shit, and if they don't do shit, I'm just like, well, what now? Like, what I'm telling you right now is a core lesson I had to learn, and is really hard. It is a really hard lesson to learn. Is it within your hero's capability to make space for your teammates?
Not even a little bit.
Not even slightly, right? So, should you ever do something predicated upon the fact that you think you need to do it to make space for your team?
No.
No, right? Like, it's not your hero's job. Like, it just isn't. Don't try to do a job that isn't yours. I know it sounds grim when you say it out loud, but what I've realized is if I just focus on what my hero's job in the game is and accept whatever's happening elsewhere, but just respond to it, then games just go way better. Like, better things just happen. There's this game, there's my last game on my main account, and this is the Arteezy approach. I had Arteezy in my game, okay? And look at this MMR distribution. This looks like a nightmare, right?
Yeah, I could be in this game.
Yeah. And so, the point being here is that this game in particular, look at their heroes. How does Monkey King fare against these heroes in terms of kill threat on me when I'm farming?
Pretty well. They got a lot of kill threat.
You're saying that they just fucking murder me, right?
Yeah.
So I don't fare very well. And I'm telling you, the old me would have been like, God, my teammates are a bunch of dumbasses. Like, let's go fight them and hope for the best. Like, that's what I would have done. And this game, I was like, damn, their heroes murder the shit out of me. And, like, because for me, when I picked this hero, I envisioned, like, I would be a backliner in fights. I had a bunch of heroes that go in first, and I could be, like, counter initiation. And since they had such a heavy commitment lineup, I figured we could punish it by, like, turning the fight with Echo Slam and Monkey King ult and all that kind of shit. But on the map, excuse me, there's just some games where it's not possible to pick a hero that's not going to die. Like, what carry in the game doesn't die to Skywrath Legion by itself? Like, what hero can you pick that isn't going to die to those two heroes by itself? It's like, and then you could say, like, maybe an illusion hero. It's like, well, they also have a Wyvern. So, like, do I want to pick an illusion hero into Wyvern? Not really. So it's like, I'm saying this out loud to you as, like, this is what I struggled with in this draft. But the old me would have tried to, like, force things. I would have tried to get shit done. In this game, I got super fucking farmed, okay? Like, I was actually super farmed. And the enemy team was just snowballing. And, like, let's just be honest. My teammates actually just missed every single spell in every fight we took this game. But there was one fight where the opponent messed up. And we won the fight and almost won this game. This game was like, we should literally win never. Like, based on what happened in the first 20 minutes, we should literally never win this game. Okay? And I realized at some point in the game, I was like, even though this game looks incredibly fucking grim, I'm farmed as fuck. I was like, damn, I'm farmed. Like, what the hell? And I realized I just wasn't dying. Like, I was just playing the map as passively as I possibly could, avoiding all the movements of the opponent and just farming. And I realized that, not necessarily saying I play this game perfectly or whatever, but I realized that it was only within my hero's capability to do that. Like, that's all I could do, right? Like, if you look at their lineup, any lane I show in, if any of their cores are there, I'm actually just dead. Like, a PA that's like fed off my off lane, and like a Storm and a Skywrath and a Legion, I'm just gonna die anywhere I go if there's an enemy there. So for you, I'm comparing this to your game because it is not in your hero's kit. It is not your capability to pick a hero that does this. And I personally like to pick heroes that do this as my way of like dictating the match. Like, if I pick PL and shit here, I can survivably farm literally anywhere on the map. If I send Terrorblade Illusions to waves, they'll probably clear most of it, at least once I get like 1 or 2 items. But if you're gonna play heroes like Anti-Mage, you just have to accept that if it's not your hero's job to get shit done, that if your teammates aren't gonna do anything, guess what's gonna happen? Like, guess how much shit is getting done?
Very little.
Nothing, you know. Like, if it ain't them, it ain't you. Like, the idea is that there's some things that it's like, if I pick safe lane Jug and my mid laner last picks Alk, I can kind of adjust to that. You know, I can maybe go like Drum's Diffusal and like try to fight a bit more because that's within Jug's capability. But if I pick Anti-Mage and my mid laner last picks Alchemist,
yeah,
what's my response to that? You know, like,
lose.
Yeah, I'd probably lose. But I should probably just hit creeps all game and hope it works out. You know? But, like, that's a point where it is really important to have this skill and discipline to be like, this just isn't possible for me. I can't do this. And I'm saying what I'm seeing right now is a lot of what I used to do and what I still do innately and I'm trying to get better at is you're like, you know something has to be done in this game. Like, they shouldn't just be allowed to show in all 3 lanes like this. And you're like taking it upon yourself to battle your way out of this lane. And I look at it as like, if I TP top here out of base and they just bring 3 heroes, now what?
Question. What do you think if something does need to be done and nobody can do it? What should I do for that?
You should pretty much just think about the opponent heroes, what they do, like what objectives they're going to try to take, and play away from those. So, like, right now, if we understand the overall dead lane concept, they're going to make moves to, like, middle and top. Like, that's what they're going to do. At some point, they're going to push middle and top, okay? And so, like, I would primarily be playing to relieve pressure top if they ever show somewhere else, where I'm like, okay, if they show somewhere else, I'm going to quickly clear a wave top. But then the second they're missing, I'm going to assume their default is mid and top. So I'm going to, like, blink my way towards bottom as I'm farming, right? Like, that's what I'm going to do. And then the minute they go top, I'm going to probably blink to bottom lane and, like, push it out as much as possible. If they show 3 heroes top and that Lycan's still alone bottom, what do you think you should do then? What? Sorry, you're cutting out.
We should probably try to kill the
Yes, you should call, like, hey, guys, this guy's alone bottom, let's kill him. And if your team doesn't do that, what happens?
Farm.
You have to go hit some fucking creeps. Like, that's all you got. Like, that's why I personally hate these heroes. Like, I hate playing them. It's so against my nature. I hate it. But it's actually a very important skill in Dota. Like, I'm going to say it out loud that, like, for me, it's something I've realized that's like, it's not acceptable to not have this skill. Like, you do have to learn it. So, the funny thing is, when you have these players that play predominantly anti-mage type heroes, they usually have a hard issue of forcing objectives when they're strong. Like, say they're playing Jug instead of anti-mage. They just play like pussies, because that's what they're used to doing on anti-mage. Like, they're really good at avoiding fights and farming efficiently and shit like that. But when their hero could just go kill a building, they just don't. Because anti-mage doesn't do that. You know, like, they're not used to having this ability to go kill a building when the opponent's pushing. They just think, oh, the opponent's pushing, I'm going to be as efficient farming as I possibly can, rather than, oh, they're pushing, I'm going to go represent a split push threat on the map. For me, like, that's how I naturally think. So if there's a hero that doesn't threaten a split push threat, I, like, lose my shit. I'm like, guys, we're just losing a tower and this Lycan's free farming bottom. Like, fuck! You know, like, but for you, like, knowing that you can be a part of those 3-man ganks and you see that shit and you're like, oh, like, guys, let's do this. But if they just don't do anything, you know, resume farm, you know, like resume hitting creeps and hope for the best. But like if you try to play outside of your hero's boundaries, it only makes it worse. It really does. There's jobs in the game that have to be done, whether or not it's objective taking, whether or not it's objective defending, whether or not it's lane clear, whatever. If your hero's just not capable of doing it and the heroes on your team that are supposed to do it aren't doing it, you're just like, that's just an inefficiency you're going to have to accept. But this is like a perfect example. The enemy team shows elsewhere, I'm quickly pushing top. You know, like that's what I'm doing. And I also would be very hesitant to TP to lanes ever, especially at a base, because I'm avoiding the opponent. So if I TP to like top and the opponent brings 4 heroes, now what? You know, like I guess I'm blinking all the way to bottom. You know, like that's what I'm going to do. But in games where I'm playing this like evasive game, I like to walk to lanes much more. In your case, blink to lanes, where I go to top. If they all TP there or like they show 4 heroes, I immediately TP bottom. Or you know, vice versa with any other lane. I want to use my TPs in a way that are evasive. And obviously this just shows why, like, you know, your team's trying to fight without you. And you're honestly doing right here what you're supposed to be doing. Like, this is correct. There's nothing, like, if you ask yourself what else could I be doing, there really is nothing. That TP to bottom was even questionable just because of exactly what happened. You know, that Lycan didn't even have to ult. He could have just walked at you and you would have had to walk away. Okay. So now you're stuck here. That's the only concern. So we have to make sure we worry about that with our farming patterns. We do see the mid. I would never have blinked on that wave for that exact reason. I don't mind walking up to that wave, but blinking's a bit sketch there. Okay. Okay. Pushed it to the limits there, but overall, that's the correct approach. Deciding how long you're allowed to stay there and shit, that's, like, up to you every single game. But I think what you did there in general is good. Okay. So this is an example where, what did I tell you when the opponent groups up and farms? What are your 2 choices in general? As anti-mage, are you ever fighting them? No.
Either splitting or farming.
Absolutely. So now that you saw them take this tower, let's logically ask yourself, what's the Lycan going to do after he takes this tower?
Well, he's going to keep pushing.
And if he's not pushing, what's he doing? Like, say he's not pushing your tier 2, then what's he doing?
Might be roshing, or he's in the area.
He's probably just farming jungle in that area, right? Like, isn't that what he's going to do? He's just going to, like... you can't, like, somebody... I can't draw in pauses, I swear. How... Can I not draw in replays? Maybe I'm in player perspective and I can't draw? Okay. Can you see that? The drawing?
Yeah.
Isn't that just where he's farming right here? That's what he's doing, right? After he takes that tower? You're cutting out a bit. That's what he's doing, right?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, that's what he was.
So, and we've talked about this. Do you want to run into a Lycan?
Especially with ult, no.
Well, even if he doesn't have ult. What if he doesn't have ult and he walks at you with all of his summons, what happens?
I would have to blink away.
Yeah, so, like, do you want to run into a Lycan? The answer is no, right? Like, the big thing that people don't seem to understand is they only really think about the guy kill threading them, okay? Like, that's all they think about. I want you to think, if both of us just walk at each other in a lane, or both of us find each other in a camp, who's scared of who here? You know? Like, and why? Like, if we were both to just walk at each other and like, if you have, you know, if you have a stun or whatever, and, you know, like a basic ability to cast, if we both just cast our basic abilities, who wins here? You know? And those are the type of heroes that, once you gauge that matchup, whether or not you want to be in the same lane as them, or like the same area of the map as them. It's like, if I blink onto a camp and there's a Lycan there, I might just fucking die. If I walk into a camp and Lycan's there, I'm blinking away, you know? But like, on the other hand, if I'm Lycan and I know an anti-mage might be in the area, I'm walking to every fucking camp I want. Like, I'm literally like, I'll walk to this one. I hope anti-mage is in this one too, you know? Like,
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I'm thinking about my own farm. And it's like, it determines a lot of carry matchups. Like, a lot of times when people say, like, why is that a bad carry matchup? That's actually a large determinant. Because if both heroes want to farm, and one hero farming just, like, shits on the other while they're both farming, it's heavily favorable for the person who does that. So I look at these heroes. They took 3 top. I know there's 2 heroes dead on the opponent, but what do you think your options are right now? Reasonably. So you said farm or split push. If you were going to split push right now, where would it be?
It would probably bottom or mid, not top.
Are you going to make it to bottom in a reasonable amount of time? Based on, like, what is enabling you to split push right now?
Well, them being dead and them showing top.
So you have 20 seconds. Are you going to get to bottom?
Not like TP.
No, like, even then, are you going to TP bottom? No, like, your option right now, reasonably in my head, is to blink mid and push with whoever's there, or to just hit some neutrals.
Okay.
That's, like, your two options. If, in certain cases, say you had a battlefield here, I would strongly consider, like, going to the triangle area and then cutting this next wave. I would strongly consider that as well, because they're dead. So, like, what this allows you to do is, remember how I said the only reason you're going to go top is to relieve pressure, right?
Right.
So, I'm thinking they're representing a lot of pressure here. Some heroes deal with it directly, some heroes deal with it indirectly. If they have light catch and you're playing a hero like Anti-Mage, if you had a battlefield here, it'd be a strong consideration to just go behind them and catch their wave. And then, like, after you do that, what does that effectively do for you if you kill that creep wave? Do you know? Like, could you describe to me what that does for you?
It would kind of free up that side of the map, right?
For how long?
Until they... I don't know how long exactly.
Well, you're killing a creep wave. When does the next creep wave come?
Seconds?
Yeah, so how long are you freeing up that side of the map for?
Around 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's not some hypothetical, secret answer. It's literally you're killing a creep wave, which is delaying whatever's happening top for the opponent by 30 seconds, because that's how long it takes for a creep wave to spawn. And so, by killing that creep wave, you've allowed yourself 30 seconds of farm anywhere else that you wanted, that you would only not be allowed to get because you're scared of them taking your buildings. So that's like a way to think about cutting creep waves, is like, if I know I'm going to be forced to fight, or my team is going to be forced to fight, and they don't want to be, if I cut this wave, that's going to open up 30 seconds for me, or a minute for me if I can cut 2 waves, or, whatever. It's like, if you were to cut this wave, the one that's right here, and then you TP to bottom, clear all of these camps, would that be 30 seconds?
Yeah, that'd be around 30 seconds.
Yeah, so you would have literally bought yourself time to clear all 3 of these camps, and then nothing negative would happen on the map to you. Okay. You see what I'm saying? That's how I look at it, because right now you're just trying to make nothing happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're going for. You're trying to make it so nothing happens. Most of the time, one team is trying to make it so nothing happens, and the other team's trying to make shit happen. So, trying to recognize which team you are out of those two at any given moment in the game is pretty important. And that's why I talk about, like, top is relieving pressure, bottom's creating it, mid is kind of like dependent upon who's winning. Usually the team that's winning is trying to pressure mid, the team that's losing is trying to, de-push mid. And that's why it's also a reasonable option for you to just go blink mid with your tiny. And if you go force mid here, like say you go mid right now, are the heroes that are alive going to kill you?
No, they don't really have.
So you're not too scared. So, like, what if you force, like, Lycan to go mid right now because you push mid? What do you then do?
Well, then I could go top.
Exactly, right? You're getting him out of your way, right? Like, the only reason you're not going top is because you just saw him top. So it's like, by going mid and creating that pressure, you're then opening up the part of the map that you wanted, So I'm just giving you all of the potential benefits. Like, if you were to walk mid right now where there's no heroes, they have to rotate somebody. If it's just Tusk, you're like, okay, like, that doesn't really mean anything. The support rotated. Maybe I'll just blink into their jungle now and start farming all this area, because I know Lycan and shit are up here. I've seen in my coaching sessions with, like, 4K, 5K players where they would, like, pressure this lane. They would TP mid after forcing rotations. Like, so they'd force somebody on the opponent team, say they were raiding. They'd force them to come here, okay? They would TP mid, push out the lane, and then they would go here. And I'm like, dude, you just force people to TP here. Why are you going here? Just go here. Like, they're all here. They're all in their jungle. Why not go to the part that you didn't force them to TP to? So it's like, by doing this, by cutting this creep wave, you're making it so they don't accomplish anything here. So you can go anywhere else as far away as you want and suffer no consequences objectively. Here, you're forcing this lane such that one of them has to go here, potentially allowing you to go here. But if one of them TP's here and the rest of their team is here, then you could just go here, and none of them are here. And that's opening up farm for you. So, like, I'm just giving you all the ways to think about, like, what each of these options benefits you, and every game it's going to be, like, which one do you want, at that moment? Which one's in your capabilities? It's like, if Shaman's alive or Monkey King's alive, I would never say to push this tower. I'd never tell you to push this mid tower. But because the heroes that kind of give that setup stun are dead, you should feel very confident, like, pushing a lane into a tower. There's a difference between pushing a lane into a tower and actually pushing the tower. As anti-mage, generally, you're not actually pushing the tower. You're just shoving the lane into the tower so that somebody on the other team has to go there. So yeah, the last thing you should do is go towards the people that you don't want to be near, right here, and then just have this. Right? I told you this is exactly what would happen. Like, maybe they'll give you this tower. I think this is a bit of a mistake by them, to be honest with you, to just let you farm that. I think they're a little bit too scared. They had 3 heroes in that lane, and they could just walk at you and then force a TP and then walk away. At that point, you're, like, forcing your teammates to help you. You know what I mean? Like, rather than, like, some other way around.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So they take Roche. Interesting. Okay. So let's see.
I feel like my team is gonna die, so I really want to fight this, right? Even though I know I shouldn't. I feel like I need to stop them here, otherwise they're gonna take our racks.
Okay. When you can't fight the opponent, what's the only way to stop them from taking objectives?
Well, to cut their wave.
Or, like, force them to go react to whatever you're doing, right?
Well, yeah.
Whatever it is, like, you have to force them to do something in response to whatever you're doing. Does farming top here ever force them to react to what you're doing? This is what I mean by, like, emphasizing the dead lane concept in regards to, like, the dead lane concept isn't just the dead lane because it's the scariest lane on the map. It's the dead lane because you don't accomplish anything by being here, other than farming the actual creeps themselves. Like, you're killing the creeps, but that's it. Yeah. So I don't have a better way to explain this to you guys, like you and everyone watching. There's a lot of coaching sessions that this happens, and you kind of just have to take my word if you were to play this out differently. So here's what I mean. When you blink top here, you start this series of events where you relinquish all map pressure despite getting 2 kills. Now, BSJ, what do you mean by that? What I mean is, the time that you guys killed them, you effectively didn't make the enemy team do anything. Like, you didn't force them to rotate mid, you didn't force them to defend their tier 2 bottom, like your teammates didn't do that. And because they weren't forced to do anything, they just walked at the most desirable objective for them and took it. Like, that's what they did.
Okay.
And in the meantime, because you guys did this, it snowballs. Like, it snowballs even more. So right now, here's an example for you. So when you blink top here, and you take this farm, so you're sitting underneath your tower, what could they be doing right now? Like, what could the opponent be doing? Name every possibility.
Well, they just respawned, so they could be defending their mid tower. They could be defending or farming bottom.
Okay.
Or they could be in Roshan.
They could be farming top. Could they be TPing on this outpost and killing you?
I don't.
Isn't that a possibility?
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you have any idea of why I asked you what they could potentially be doing right now?
Well, that would be something for me to counteract, right? Like, to understand.
Okay. So how do you account for all 5 of these options?
By forcing them to do one thing, right?
Okay. So now that you're saying you want to force them to do one thing and all their heroes are alive, what can you do to make them do that?
Well, if I'm...
Would you say it's not already too late?
I mean, I can't put any pressure anywhere top, like you said.
There's no pressure, right? There's no pressure to be created. So this whole idea of, like, yanking the opponent around is a very, very... it's a very fragile thing, where the second you lose it, as a hero like Anti-Mage, it's just gone. And like whenever there's like one slip up from these types of heroes, you kind of just the enemy team just barrels down lanes and takes objectives. Like that's what happens. They just kill everything. And it's like really hard execution threshold for heroes like Anti-Mage to do this. And like when you guys got 2 kills, if you force them to defend bottom and mid, none of the following events happen at all. Like none of it happens. And this is why I emphasize like you're getting farm here, but it's doing absolutely nothing. Like this farm is doing absolutely nothing. And in games where the opponent threatens so many objectives, if you don't do anything with your farm, they're just going to take objectives. It's like I tell people the reason why heroes aren't aggressive is because they're scared of you killing them. The reason why they don't go for objectives is because they're afraid of losing their own. It's the same thing. Like it's like they're afraid of the consequences of grouping up and taking an objective. And if you're not giving them consequences, it's just as bad. And by being here on the map, you've put yourself in a spot where if I ask you what are their options, and there's 5 different options, you are in a bad place on the map. Like that is how I describe it. I have no other like consequence to describe to you other than like there are certain circumstances I put myself in. Like it happens all the time, like to every player, and a lot of times I realize my circumstance I put myself in was bad because I'm like, where is this guy? And I just have no idea what they're doing. Like they could be roshing, they could be ganking you, they could be just farming, and no matter what they're doing, what do you have to play like they're doing?
Any of those options.
You have to play like they're doing any of them. So you have to play like they're ganking you, you have to play like they're roshing, you have to play like they're farming, and all of that means like if they're just farming, you're scared. If they're just roshing, you're scared of them ganking you, so you don't want to walk over there. You know, like all these reasons, like you can't play around them. So you have to just literally sit in your base and do nothing. Like that's what you guys would have to do. Your team also messed up here. The lone druid is supposed to kill that building bottom and then shove the lane. Like I don't know what your team just did. They just took the tower and abandoned ship. Like if you look at your teammates down at the bottom half of the map. So this is like a dual effort where you're leaving it to your teammates to do this. I personally, while the Shadow Shaman and Monkey King were dead, I would have shoved mid with my Tiny, and if I got a response, I would have blinked towards bottom. Because I told you, the way you respond to the opponent is think about what objectives they want and you play away from them. Right? Like that's... And so I'm thinking, based on how I understand Dota, their objectives are top and mid. It's going to be Roche, the two tier 1s, and then the tier 2 top. So right now, their objectives are tier 2 top and Roche. And if we're not forcing them to do anything that aren't near those objectives, they're just going to walk at them. Like, that's all they're going to do. They're going to walk straight at these objectives. So, having this... Go ahead.
If they were to ignore us and we took the tier 2 and the tier 1 mid, and they got Aegis, wouldn't they still be able to just barrel down mid like they proceeded?
No, the lane's still shoved into their tier 3. You have a lone druid and shit. Like, even if it's just you. Like, I'm saying if at the end of the day it's you hitting the tier 3, okay, like, it should be the lone druid, but at least it's something. The point is, like, but then your team has an extra 2,000 gold.
Yeah, it's a much better situation than...
Yeah, like, even then, like, the point is, like, there's plenty of times where there's absolutely nothing you can do where you're like, okay, I guess I'll take this free tier 2. But that's, like, still a better option than, like, what you're showing. You have a good point where, like, sometimes you'll hit the building and there's just, like, the enemy team's just like, whatever, you know? And they'll just walk down the lane anyway. But at least at that point, your decision is either fight or take a tier 2 rather than fight or hit a neutral.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's your 2 choice. Like, the way you're playing is leaving you with this choice to fight or kill a neutral. That's what you're leaving yourself with the choice of. And so when we get to this fast-forwarded point where we go to this mid-fight, you as a carry player innately have this sense of, I'm either fighting or I'm hitting a neutral. And you don't feel good. I hate Monkey King replay bugs. You don't feel good saying, I'm not going to show up to this fight so that I can hit this neutral. Like, I know you don't feel good when you say that. So, you show up to the fight. Do you agree that you shouldn't be at this fight?
I should not be at this fight.
Yeah, so I always say to people that... Okay, I have to reload this replay. Fucking Monkey King replays. I swear to God. Okay, I guess I have to go back into Discord and get it.
There, you have it.
Oh, is this it? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I literally just backed like 12 times and then gave up, and I happened to be on the one that actually got to it. Okay.
Dire team pick.
Where are we at here? We were at like 15. Yeah. You're at 17 because I saw you just got your vampires. Okay. This whole idea is about the consistent pressure that we could be applying elsewhere. And because there's no pressure, you have this feeling. Right now, rather than contributing, I probably would... What would be a better option if you're stuck here? Like, say, so now we found ourselves in this spot. You've messed up. You relinquished map pressure. What can you do during all this chaotic shit fight that's happening?
I could be split pushing.
Okay.
Or cutting their wave behind them, even.
Yes. That is exactly what I was going to say. So, the split pushing idea, that's meant to create pressure so that they don't want to fight you, right?
Right.
But now that they fought you, what should you consider?
Well, taking away their pressure that they just placed.
Yeah, so
right?
the way I look at it is, you're relatively correct there. The way I look at it is, if they win this fight, what objective are they going to take?
Well, the mid lane.
So what should I do? I should make it so, to my best of my capability, they don't get that objective, right?
Right.
So, as a split pushing hero, that's another option for you. So, like, say you were bottom here. So, say you were actually playing in their jungle. Let me draw here. Say you were playing, like, right here. God, I can't draw during pauses, I swear. Say you're playing right here, okay? And you see this fight going on, and you feel like your split push pressure on this tower bottom just doesn't mean shit. You know how you told me that? Like, you're like, they're just not going to respond. Why can't you just go from here, where you, like, this is where you are, and just blink towards mid immediately? Okay, can I not draw? Gee, I can't draw during pause. And just cut this.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
And then suddenly, like, they get this feeling where they're like, okay, we just won this fight, and now what? Like, what do they do now? Try to backdoor your tier 2? You know, like, maybe. If they want to try, like, they could. But then you do this, and then based on what they do, you can either look to cut this wave and then cut the next wave mid. Like, all you're doing is just trying to make it so whatever they're doing, they can't get what they want. Right? Like, that's all you care about. And so that should dictate your farm. All the point of this is when you watch, like, if you watch high, like, RTZ level carry players, you will see this, where they're farming somewhere on the map, try to create pressure, and they quickly realize, like, this isn't creating any pressure when the opponent's forcing a fight, and they'll immediately stop whatever they're doing and just blink to wherever they need to go to, like, cut a creep wave or whatever. Like, they will just stop. They'll drop everything they're doing, because they know that no camp efficiency that they could have matters more than preventing the opponent team from just barreling down mid, right? So I think of this type of farm similar to cutting the creep wave top, where, remember when I told you cut the creep wave top, it buys you 30 seconds to do whatever you want? It's the same thing here. You're killing this creep wave such that you can farm for wherever you want for 30 seconds. Like,
okay,
that's what you're doing for yourself. All this time that you're feeling like you're dragged around by the opponent, all the times where you're like, God, they're forcing the issue and I can't do anything about it. This is your bread and butter of, okay, cool, I've got an extra 20 seconds to hit some neutrals. Awesome. You know, like, I had to do a lot of work for that extra 20 seconds, but how much can Anti-Mage kill in 20 seconds? That's like 3 neutral camps in 20 seconds, you know? For him, that's a lot. That's a lot of farm you can get in 20 seconds. So, but now, let's see what they do here. So you try to contribute to the fight. Obviously, take a bajillion damage in less than half a second because they're all physical. And then... yeah, you die. Okay.
We do win the fight, though. And I'm...
just imagine if you weren't there, though. Did that change much? You maybe took, like, a third of a second and a half of their time to kill you? Like, to be honest with you, like... It's not meant to be like an insult. It's just like your hero sucks right now.
Yeah,
like it doesn't do anything. So it's like all I would do is compare it to, wouldn't it have been better if you're cutting mid, killing all the jungle camps top, maybe farming some neutral items, putting some pressure on that tier 2 that's like randomly taking damage right now, and maybe cutting the next creep wave mid. And it's like, my two arguments are, wouldn't that be better for you, first off? And what if you guys lost to this fight and you were doing that?
Yeah, it's black and white.
Nothing happens, right? If you lose the fight now,
yeah,
buy racks, you know, like, see ya. That's how I look at it. It's like risk reward, you know. Okay, so I definitely wouldn't have TP'd there. Same idea. Anytime that you're trying to play around the opponent, TPing to a part of the map okay, the way I look at it is, anytime I'm playing around the opponent, if I TP somewhere, I'm not able to play around them. And anytime I'm a hero that the opponent's trying to play around, if I TP there, they just leave.
Right, okay.
So, like, if I'm like a Bristleback or a Timbersaw, I'm also usually hesitant to TP somewhere, because if I walk at that lane and they walk away, they TP away, I'm like, hey, and just follow them. Like I'll go TP too or whatever. So I just think about, to the degree of each team, how much they're playing around each other, like how much my hero's impact is on the opponent team, whether or not like I need to dodge them or whether or not they have to dodge me. So that makes me less likely to TP places. Okay. Yeah, you're just playing the wrong part of the map at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the average carry player would get like 500 MMR if they just played around bottom and mid as Dire and top and mid as Radiant. There are exceptions. The key is that I tell you why the exceptions exist, right? So, in that one case where they had 2 heroes dead and they were threatening top, it's great for you to go cut that creep wave top because you're trying to relieve pressure. But in this case, if you're playing around top and you're not relieving pressure, you're just putting yourself in the most dangerous part of the map for no reason. Like, that's what you're doing. So my exception will be, oh, I can cut that creep wave, or, oh, like, they're 4-manning bottom, I can go top. You know, otherwise I'm playing bottom and mid. I always emphasize this a lot, understanding the parts of the map. Like, at this point, I don't expect you to fully understand the parts of the map, but just generally knowing you don't go top unless they're showing a ton of heroes elsewhere, or you feel like you can cut that creep wave. And otherwise, you're going bottom and mid. And it's like, if you understand that at a basic level, your farming rotations will increase drastically in terms of map movements and all that kind of stuff. And you'll kind of be able to start figuring it out for yourself when and why you're supposed to go to certain places. But I just look at this and say, for the last 15 minutes, not the last 15, last 10 minutes, how much has the opponent reacted to this anti-mage player I'm watching? And how many times would you say they've reacted?
I mean, that Monkey King TP top, so...
Is that a reaction, though? Is that a place on the map he doesn't want to be?
Well, I think so, because they were fighting mid. He would much rather be with his team fighting. Okay,
let's rewind here. Let's rewind. You might be right. Let's rewind. You have 2 heroes dead. He doesn't give a shit about TPing here.
Okay.
Like, at this point, this is exactly when they're going to TP. Like, I didn't look at it specifically, but just to be very clear, like, he doesn't care about fighting with his team right now. They just killed 2 heroes, and now they're going to clean up waves. Like, this is something you should be doing, and I think it's okay that you, like, threaten this lane, but it just feels like consistently when I'm watching, your default is top and your, like, exception is bottom. Like, I don't think I've seen you go bottom yet. I don't... If I recall correctly, I don't think you've killed bottom wave a single time this entire game. And that's what's, like, kind of stressing me out when I watch it. It's like, if you're creating pressure here, it would just be more bottom. Like, and so, like, right now you force the Monkey King away. What's that Monkey King going to do after he clears one wave?
He's going to run towards mid.
Okay, so what do you need to do?
Well, I could go back top, right?
Yeah, so... What do you not need? What are you not allowed to do after you force that Monkey King to TP? Because you said they're gonna fight mid, right?
Well, I can't be in our jungle near mid.
Okay, so what could you be doing?
Well, I could either be pushing top or I could be pushing bottom.
Couldn't you just, like, jungle these 3 camps, right? Or the opponent triangle camps between top and mid? And,
yeah, I could do that.
And if Monkey King shows with his team mid, you cut that creep wave. If he stays top, you cut his creep wave. You know, like, instead of going back to your own side of the map, because you're literally you're allowing them to corral you. Like, he's just gonna walk back to mid, right? Like, that's all he's gonna do. He's gonna clear one wave and walk back to mid. Is that not obvious? You said it yourself. That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah.
And you need to prevent them from being allowed to do what they want, right? Like, that's like, so in my mind, it's like, there's never an exact answer. I'm just like, how do I prevent this guy? You know, I know Monkey King's gonna TP top and farm one wave. If he wants to keep going, sure, that's fine. I don't care if he does anything else, right? Like meaning, I think of their ideal play. If they all 5 walk mid, and now there's nothing happening on the map, they're just going to kill your building. And like that's not okay with me. Like for me as a carry player, I'm not okay with this. So I think, what are they gonna do? What can I do to stop it? Like, you know, what is it? Like, can I cut mid to make it so they have no creep wave? Can I pressure top to make it so they want to come back? Can I, you know, what can I do? You know, some cases there's no answer. But the majority of the time there's some decent, reasonable thing you can do. Like, and if there's multiple options that I think, like I told you here, where based on what Monkey King's gonna do, I'm going to change my option. You know, like if he stays top, I'll cut mid. If he goes back mid, I'll pressure top. Then I'm going to sit in a place that's between those two. You know, like I'm gonna be like, okay, like that's why I told you to farm these triangle camps, because that's between those two things. And so I come to that conclusion to be like, okay, this is why I'm gonna farm here, because the two things I want to do are equidistant from this area. So I'm just gonna sit here and wait for more information. There's a lot of time in Dota that you need to sit and wait for more information. But establishing what you're gonna do with the information ahead of time is like really important in your own head here. You know, you're not telling your team this shit. You're just kind of doing it. So you forcing the Monkey King to TP like this, and then immediately allowing him to group up with his team again, defeats the entire purpose of what you've done. And so, like, I understand he ended up staying top, but now, like, you haven't created any... Okay, he's actually just fucking with you. Interesting. So, like, in this case, maybe you learned your lesson where if Monkey King stays top, my only option is to cut mid, because even if he's alone top, I can't do anything about it. Like, he's just going to threaten me anyway, right? That's maybe what you learned right there. And that's something where, if you don't know matchups, it's a perfectly reasonable mistake to make, where you're like, okay, if Monkey King stays top, I'm just going to try to force that lane in so that maybe one more hero has to rotate. And then suddenly that Monkey King just, like, almost kills you by himself, and you're like, oh, well, that's not an option. You know, next time a similar situation happens. And that's, like, understanding matchups. That's all it is. And, like, if you were to do that in lane and, like, force the tier 2 or cut the creep wave and almost die or some shit, I would be like, oh, okay, like, you just didn't understand this matchup. Great, like, we can move on from that. But that's not what you're doing in the first place. So, like, we got to get you to a point where you can accurately assess matchups based on the way you're playing the map. So that's the first step. The next step will be matchup based. So now we're all corralled in our base. We've literally delivered them. Like, they're supposed to have to be like shepherds herding their sheep, but you're all willingly walking into the fence together. So that's what I look at this as. So now we've gone bottom. Very cool. Let's see what happens from it here. Okay, this is fine. You forced out a fort. Right back to business.
I'm communicating with my team, asking me, like, should I come? And it wasn't great.
I would say you've realized what you're supposed to do like 8 minutes late. And at this point, they just have way more items, way more levels, and you as an anti-mage don't have, like, all you need to do is buy time, and because they've been allowed to group up as much as they have, all your tier 2s are already gone, so now, like, their objective is a tier 3 rather than a tier 2. It's like... it's a perfect example where right there, it's just too little too late. I think you're doing the right thing there. It just doesn't matter at this point, because your threat on the map is not enough to alleviate them from just barreling down lane. And sometimes in games like this, even if you play it perfectly, based on how the lanes win or something, you would just have to give up that rack. So the game's by no means over. Let's rewind here and see what you did here. So you see 2 there, so you felt safe. Okay. You end up blinking away. Okay. Works out. Made sense that you felt safe there. You actually went for the tankiness item rather than the kill item. I don't hate that. Okay. So we're back to business, pushing bottom. They're all missing, though. This is fine. This is an example of jungle's like a lot about doing shit based on, you know, you don't have information to show in a lane yet. But I think you and I agree at this point that you should be either going mid or bottom. And if you go mid or bottom, you need to be as close to ready as to do either of those as possible. So, like, I see 3 at the triangle. I want to get to this bottom lane as quickly as I can. Okay. Forced out a Lycan ulti. That's not actually that bad. At this stage in the game, that wasn't that huge of an inconvenience for you. Now you guys might actually be able to capitalize on that. Maybe not. So... In this case, I think it's fine to like go quickly push out a wave top, because even no matter what you do bottom and mid, if like the top's being pushed into your base, who cares? Your team's now threatening mid. Monkey still really wants that ass, man. He wants you. You force them all top, so you win mid. Great. Now, I think it's time for you to clean up these waves. I know you killed Shaman. Does he really mean much?
I mean, if he catches one of us, it's kind of important.
But like, in terms of defending his towers, does he mean much?
No, not...
No, so like, in this case, if I'm anti-mage, I'd be like, they're probably not going to fight us, but even then, like, I think it's probably more important I kill this shit against a Lycan. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is really important to... Like, right now, the way I look at it is, I'm yanking their chain. I'm trying to force them to react to anything I'm doing. They're light on catch. They have a ton of push. So, by the time Shadow Shaman's alive, I want all 3 creep waves into their base. Like, what do they do about it? You know, at that point, they can't catch you. They can't leave their side of the map. You know, what are they going to do? So, I would actually value getting this lane shoved to here more than this tier 2. Like, I would actually value that higher. But I think it's reasonable you stay here, but I wouldn't personally choose to do it. I also think you going bottom is like 100% going to accomplish what you want, while you pushing mid is not going to 100% accomplish what you want.
Okay.
Do you see that as well? It's not that I knew for a fact you wouldn't be able to push that tier 2. I just knew that that tier 2 wasn't absolutely guaranteed. Like, even if it's 10%, you know, like whatever it is. I knew it wasn't absolutely guaranteed, because that Shadow Shaman just isn't that important for them to defend towers. So now we clear out bottom, and instead of you, it's a Legion. Okay. So your team actually smokes back. Pretty good movement by your team. I don't think this is an appropriate time to jungle. I guess that's okay. You want to play ultra efficient? I guess that's reasonable. You're going to force them back to bottom. Now, I would immediately TP top, no questions, no hesitation. This shit needs to be fast, man. It needs to be fast, right? Like,
okay.
Like, you force them bottom, only thing you guys are concerned about is getting them stuck in their base now. Like, that's all you care about, because their heroes are not independent. Can any of their heroes function independently? Like, even Monkey King at this point, aren't you kind of a threat to him?
Yeah, I'd probably kill Monkey King.
Yeah, you would at least... If you ran into Monkey King together, where it's 1v1, who wins now? Isn't it probably you?
It is probably me.
Yeah, so at this point, like, none of their heroes function independently. All we need to do is get them out of wherever they want to be. Like, just get them into their own base. Like, we're the shepherds now, right? Like, so we force them into their base, like, just now. Great. Like, TP top instantly and just tell your team, hey, guys, I'm showing top. Like, you know, you can even walk into our jungle if you want, because by the time you've pushed this lane out to, like, this outpost, you know, the enemy team's what? Cleared, like, 2 waves bottom, and then you just, like, rinse and repeat this whole shit, you know? Like, you just go over and over it again. And your only objective outside of the base right now is tier 2 top. And if you don't do it, look who's doing it.
Yeah,
It's the heroes that don't want to do it, right? Like, it shouldn't be your lone druid that's doing that. It should be you. And instead of, you know, and now you're the one getting ganked, and... Okay, let's see what happens. You're actually fighting them on their terms now, which is kind of interesting. Okay. Yeah, like, the way you play fights is pretty good. So, like, I even said it's, like, a pretty fucking hard anti-mage game. Like, they have a ton of physical damage. You have to play really scared most of the fight. Like, you're always at threat of getting bursted. But now you guys win the fight. Okay. Question. This whole time you've been playing, like, to push their base, what has been the annoyance of it? Like, what has stopped you from pushing their base?
Well, they're ults, really. Monkey King ult, Shadow Shaman. Right?
So last time I told you not to push the tier 2, why did I tell you not to push the tier 2?
Well, they could defend it, right?
What was your other option, though? What else was happening on the map?
Well, we were losing a fight, right? If I recall correctly.
No, there was a Lycan threatening your tier 2.
Oh.
So, when you win this fight, and your team's gonna barrel down mid, what should you do right now? Right now.
I should go cut another wave, right?
Where?
Bottom.
Wouldn't it be top? Because that's the mega creep wave? Or the super creeps or whatever?
Yeah, it could be... Well, it could be either, right?
Okay, what's your objective right now? Like, okay, so wouldn't you actually agree in an ideal world right now? Just think about this to yourself. Wouldn't you rather play around top and mid than bottom and mid? Wouldn't you rather do that if you were powerful enough? Like, if you really think about it, like, the way I look at it is the only reason people don't play top and mid is it's harder to. Like, it takes more power to do it. It's really hard to take over this triangle. But if you're strong enough to do it, isn't it more ideal to control this? Like, look at what the opponent has left. Like, if you control the triangle, what do they have left? Like, if you control... I'm going to try to draw here. I can't draw in player perspective. If you control this area, where do they go? Well, like right here?
Yeah, they got their...
That's all they got.
Yeah.
Do they ever feel comfortable going here? No, like, all they got left is this. Right? Like, if they have their triangle, they have all types of options to go, like, anywhere they want with, like, a smoke. But, like, if they're stuck here, like... Now what, you know? So, like, I see this a lot in your bracket, where it even happens in my bracket sometimes. You guys want to fight, and people just all group up on one creep wave and hit it together. It's like, you know, what about this creep wave? Maybe even this one. Like, if you win here, I could have talked to you about, like, you know, maybe it was better to go top. And I would have been, like, pretty happy with that, like... talk we would have about that. I'd be like, okay, he had this clear-cut sense of urgency. They want to fight, go clear a wave while the rest of his team pushes mid. Like, do you understand why it's you that's supposed to be doing this?
My mobility is high.
Yeah, you're just the highest mobility hero to get there and come back, right? Like, that's the only limitation to this kind of shit. So, in this case, it's you. And a lot of times as a player, anyone watching this, and yourself included, think about, is this you? You know, I'm naming all types of jobs in this game. Cutting creep waves, forcing rotations elsewhere, you know, capitalizing on fights in a way that matters, you know, all this kind of stuff. Any and all of these could be you. Like, but sometimes none of them are. You know, like early game when you said, like, I think someone should be creating pressure, you know, that's just not you. It wasn't your job. As people watching here, it's like when I talk about these games, if something should be happening and it's your hero's job, fucking do it, right? And so it's like, but at the same time, if it's not your hero's job, if it's within your capabilities, still go do it, you know? But like in the early game, when you're saying like somebody has to make something happen on the map and you're doing it as an anti-mage, it ain't your job, all right? Like, or like, meaning, it's not just that it's not your job, you're not actually capable of doing it. So your team actually just backdoored them. Okay, that's an approach. Okay, do you guys win this game?
Yes.
Nice, okay. We can end it there. We've talked about a lot. We'll make sure we get to this second replay here.
Luna. This one's a little bit different.
I just realized I literally did that for an hour and a half. Holy shit. Okay, so we're going to watch this game maybe 15 minutes, okay? Because I had no idea I talked for that long. So I want to make sure you get enough out of this session because... Holy shit, I talked.
I've been getting a lot, dude.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in terms of, like, you gave me 2 replays. I at least want to make sure I watch this. So, what's your comment on this game? You were Luna in this one?
Yeah, I was Luna. So we stomped. Like, the lane went perfectly, right? But then it was a gradual shit show after that. Like, we put high ground, lost high ground, we lost.
It looks like you're the opposite team in this game. In terms of like who's the one dictating the pace and all that kind of shit. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, so your lineup. You have. When did you pick? You picked probably 4th.
Yeah, I usually pick 4th.
Okay, and you didn't see Ursa.
I did not see Ursa.
You saw probably like Rubik, Treant, Pango.
Yeah, I picked it into a Treant Pango lane.
Okay, and you had a Wind Ranger 5. Yeah. Generally with Luna, I treat her like Drow. I usually don't want to pick her unless my support's like Ogre, Bane, Dirge, you know, like Luna's weakness in lane is getting ran at, right?
Yeah.
I usually want a support that gets ran at. Like, the support likes to get ran at. That's why I honestly haven't been picking Luna. I've been getting like a lot of Liches and stuff as my supports. So I just don't pick Luna. I don't think Luna's a bad hero. I just think She's like situational based on whatever support I have. I'd be a bit fearful playing against Pango, as well as like Rubik or a Tree. The way I look at Pango Tree is like if I get ran at, like if I get caught in a queue from Tree and then Pango's level 2 and he queues me too, I might just die actually. I'm just pointing it out to you. It's not. I think Luna's a fine hero. I'm just telling you what I worry about when I pick her. So let's see what you do end up doing in this game. I think the salve might be a bit too much against Pango. I usually think I'm just gonna get swashbuckled, as opposed to Bristle, who I'm gonna hit a lot and take a lot of damage. I would have almost said last game you should have Tango and a salve, and this game you should have 2 sets of Tangos rather than the other way around.
Okay.
Just something to consider there. Okay. So you just forced him away. What should you have done right here?
I should have pulled it onto the range creep.
Okay,
right?
cool. Yeah.
First blood. Thanks and have fun.
It's even more important that you do it right there because the Pango's swash is on cooldown, right?
Yeah.
So if you can get your own range creep killed when it's on cooldown, that's even better. Not only because he can't secure with swash, but also because when he has no swash, he's weak as fuck, right?
Right.
So if he tries to like go for the last hit anyways, can't you just like hit him a bunch? Yeah. So like whenever I think it's just something to consider. Whenever I know a hero's weak, I try to get as many I try to get as many creeps killed as possible, whether or not that's enemy creeps, whether or not that's my creeps. Just knowing which way to capitalize on it kind of boils down to a specific matchup, but just using that as a concept of like, you know, you want to be as strong as possible whenever you're fighting for creeps, and if the opponent's weak, if you can punish that with creeps dying, it's really good. That's just a way I like to think about it. Okay, meant to fast forward there. Okay, yeah, you got level 2, he's level 1, good kill.
I like Luna really because I feel like I have a lot of kill potential with her in the lane, right? So it's just really aggressive and that fits me.
Okay. I think Luna is good against low stun lineups. She's really fast, but if she gets locked down, she's like super fragile. So that's how I look at Luna. She's like a Drow, but fast. So she's actually good against lineups that rely on chasing you in the early game. So like if my primarily way of dying is them walking at me, I actually like Luna in those type of cases just because she's fast. But in terms of lanes, like her lanes are really snowbally one way or the other. Like I've been against Lunas that I make them jungle at level 4, and I've been against Lunas that kind of shit on me. So I wouldn't necessarily put her as like a super aggressive laner. I'd say she's potentially one. And like against Pango, I could see how that would be okay. Against Pango specifically, I just like to pick heroes, ideally, that don't die to him when he's 6. Like, that's what I like to pick, personally. Your option is to either leave lane when he's 6, or not care that he's 6. Those are kind of your 2 options, and Luna can leave lane, so I'm okay with that. You go for the Helm Dawn. That's the pretty standard build on Luna right now. So let's see. You guys go home. I'm a huge Mask of Madness hater, so do not. I don't like that myself. You are missing a lot of opportunities to drag creeps to your range. Just something to really think about more. I've seen it at least 2 or 3 times in this lane. Like even right now, like I really don't think you're pushing this tower yet. I think your Helm Dom's your tower pushing timing. I only mention this because like they do have heroes that could potentially like rotate one more in and kill you. I think against heroes like Pango, I'm like really happy to just outfarm them because their only way of coming back when they're behind is to kill me. Like that really is their only way back. They're never gonna like out recover me kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when I say heroes like Pango, that's what I mean. Okay. Yeah, I mean, overall, very free farm lane for Luna. At this point, I'd be done with Beam. I'd start leveling my glaives.
Just 3 levels?
What?
You wouldn't max out Lucent Beam?
No, I would not max out Lucent Beam here. I would say your time of lane dominating is about over. And the way I look at what I mean by that is when I see heroes like Luna and Drow and stuff, if I win my lane, I'm like, sick. I can farm more now. It's like, I'm not looking to turn that into anything. I'm looking to turn that into, I'm not going to die now. Because these heroes, like, their major weakness is that they die, right? Like, they're very squishy, susceptible heroes. But if they're allowed to get, like, 1 or 2 small items, suddenly they are super powerful, right? Drow does, like, a ton of damage with, like, Yasha plus 1 item. Luna with, like, Helmdom Manta is, like, really scary for towers. She farms really fast, you know. At that point, heroes like Tree and Ursa, they don't threaten you anymore, you know. I'm just giving you an example of, like, on these type of heroes, I like to prioritize getting past this weak stage. There are going to be some games where you can, like, push the tower based on a specific timing, but if I had to evaluate Luna just based on what I know about Dota, she heavily relied on, like, Bassi and Ring of Aquila to push towers. So with those two things being gone, until you get Helmdom, you're not really pushing. So I would say, like, now that you just got those 2 kills, that's opened up the map for me to farm. Now I'm going to start skilling abilities that farm for me. Like, I think my Lucent Beam Eclipse combo is still scary enough with just level 3 Beam. Like, I think it's enough, right? I'm not going to delay my farming rate by another 750 XP, you know? That's how I'm looking at it. You'd be amazed if you just think, like, what am I going to do in the game right now? And then just level accordingly. You've won your lane already. You're not going to lose your lane because you don't put that 4th point in Beam. You know, like, if it's that big of a difference in terms of the lane matchup, sure, you can level a certain ability, but I don't believe Luna Beam level 3 to 4 is ever going to make enough of a difference. If you have to kill your way back into the game, like you're having a tough time farming, sure, maximize that Beam and try to make sure you get that one, like, Eclipse kill. But if you don't have to do that, then just don't, you know? Like, just don't all in to be powerful like that. You should just be farming faster. That's how like, all of this that you're doing right now should just have 2 points in glaives rather than 1. Okay. You even got an Iron Talon, that's hype. Okay. So I think this pressure bottom is perfectly fine. I would always be scared once Pango has ult again. Do you think Windranger survivably farms this lane?
Not really.
You think she's gonna die to Pango?
Pango +1, right? Like a Rubik, I think.
But if she's, like, positioned correctly, is she gonna die to that shit?
No.
Is this more efficient farm for you than jungle and ancients?
No, it's more efficient than jungle.
Yeah, like, why are you here then, right? Like, the only reason you ever want to come back to your lane as a carry is if either 1, it's more efficient for you, or 2, like, you're gonna lose your tower or some shit because nobody else can take it.
Okay.
So, like, I'm giving you all the reasons why it's, like, it's actually more efficient for you to not be here. Is Windranger gonna jungle? No, right? You're the only hero on your team bottom right now that wants to jungle. And, like, if you, Mag, and TA are farming, you feel very good, right? Like, you're just like, cool. Like, we're winning this game if we're all farming. So right now, I would 100% be at the small camp, stacking the Ancients. I have an Iron Talon, so it's even better. And just letting my Windranger chill here. I don't want to keep getting swashbuckled by a Pango. Like, that doesn't feel fucking good. I don't want that. The beautiful thing about Pango is he doesn't actually kill your tower ever. Like, this hero needs, like, 2 heroes to rotate with him. He needs, like, a Vlad's, and then he kills your tower. Like, other than that, he's never killing your tower. So if it's more efficient for you to jungle, and it's an offlaner like Pango that just doesn't kill your tower, then by all means, just leave him be. You know, let this Windranger have the levels. Take the farm for yourself. Who cares about this pressure? You're against Ursa, you know, like, just get 900 GPM. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you have a Mag TA. It's not like I'm saying to farm forever, but by all means, just hit, like, Tread's Manta and then run at people, you know? And it's like, anytime they leave bottom, by all means, you have a Helmdom, go kill the building, you know? But at this point, I would be killing that Ancient every fucking minute, no question. This is just unnecessary pressure, in my opinion. I'm not saying you should look to, like, poke and prod them. You're a hero that represents a ton of tower threat, right? Like, if they leave you alone, their tower is gonna die. Play accordingly, you know? Like, if they're already there, you're not actually that great at shoving the lane into them and pushing, right? Like, that's not what your hero's gonna do. Your hero's, like, this looming threat of anytime they leave this lane, you're going to take their building. So the way I look at playing Luna this game is I'd probably play bottom because I have an Iron Talon especially, but also because I want those Ancients, as long as I'm allowed to play bottom. But I'm going to play in a way that, like, I'm looking to push whenever it's available, like the lane's free, but otherwise I'm just hitting neutrals, right? Like, I'm not showing myself. I'm going to pop out with, like, 200 CS at 16 minutes or whatever, and, like, look at your CS. You're absolutely free farm as a Luna, and you have 60 CS at 11.5. To be honest, like, certain heroes like Ursa, would he rather be 100 CS with no kills or 3-0 and 4 with 60 CS?
The kills.
Yeah, would Luna rather do this or have 100 CS?
Probably the CS.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's just what Luna is. So I'm not telling you not to kill people, but it's like, it's not like a part of your kit. Like, you have a default mode, right? You're in default farm mode, and unless you have to go kill people for the sake of accomplishing something so you are allowed to farm, if I'm a Luna and I'm allowed to hit creeps without them fucking with me, by all means, I'm hitting fucking creeps. Like you farm so fast. Like, this hero farms so fast. So it's like, I'm hitting creeps all damn day, man. Like, if they're not making me do anything to work for it, like, the last thing I want to do is do this. Like, it's just like Alk, right? The net effect you're getting from these kills compared to the amount of creeps you'd be getting in the same amount of time is just so, like, the creeps are so many. And, like, if you want to show up to fights, by all means, great. But I don't think you should ever be the instigator. I don't think, like, I'm not telling you it's bad necessarily that you're getting these kills, but what are these kills accomplishing that killing a creep wouldn't? Did you get a tower?
No. We got rotations, though, right?
But,
like, to come in.
Okay, so in this case, what team is pressured to do something? For the time being, the Ursa, right? So it's like, I don't know how to better explain it than, like, you are forcing rotations, but it just doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything, because they're the ones that have to do something. And if they're just not doing anything, it's like, creeps. Like,
yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, at the anti-mage game, imagine if the Lyke and Bristle just weren't doing anything. Wouldn't you have just hit creeps? It's like, just because you're powerful enough to quote-unquote do something, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to. Like, you can. I'm saying, like, what I'm saying is I would be in a jungle where I'm ready to push a tower. I'm ready to show up to a fight. But I'm not hitting creeps in order to show up to these fights. Do you see what I'm saying is the difference here? Like, one of them, you're fight ready, but in both of them, you're actually just content hitting creeps.
Like, I don't really... It sounds like I don't understand what I need to be doing on these specific heroes.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I mean. Is like, Dota's very different on every single hero. But I think if I were to ask you on Luna, on the 10 to 15 minute mark, if you were allowed to jungle every creep camp every minute, would you be happy with that?
Pretty happy.
Yeah, well, I feel like you'd be happy with that. It's like, if you were anti-mage and you were allowed to just farm lanes until you got your Battle Fury, would you be happy with that?
Very happy with that.
That's like exactly what you want the game to look like, right? Like, so usually if I ask you exactly on every hero what you want the game to look exactly like, most people will know. Like, even at your bracket, even if you don't think about it, like, you'll know. I ask you, I'm like, isn't that exactly what you want it to look like? So if you don't have to kill anyone to make it look like that, then don't kill anyone. Like, the reason why you go for kills is to make the game look better than what it does to you currently. Like, that's how I look at kills. Like, if I need to get a tower to open up that part of the map to farm, I'm going to go kill somebody so I can get that tower. It's like, if I need to, like, if my jungle's getting invaded and the only way I'm going to be able to farm is if we boot them out of our jungle, I'm going to go use my Eclipse to go kill them in our jungle. But, like, if they have an Ursa and I'm allowed to just farm Ancients every minute, I'm going to kill Ancients every fucking minute. And, like, if I've killed all the camps I want to kill and then a casual fight happens, great, I'm showing up. Like, I'll be at the fight because I'm not an anti-mage, I'm a Luna, right? I'm willing to be there. It's just like, you notice how, like, all the fights you're taking are actually sacrificing your own CS?
I'm having to make a choice. Right?
You're making a choice, right? You shouldn't have to choose. Yeah, that's actually a great way to word it. You shouldn't have to choose. You should get both. Like, you're actually so far ahead. You should get exactly what you want, and if fights happen, great. Like, that's how I would be looking at this. I also think you farm so fast that you should just fly yourself a salve and a clarity there. shouldn't go to base. You're not at threat, right? Like, your TA is, like, forcing Roche, which is a bit weird. I think going to base there is bad. Like, a Salve and a Clarity, you would have killed 3 camps at least. It's more gold. It's actually free XP, right? You just left, I think, the Ancients and the 2 camps in your jungle alive there.
Anyone here know what a dead
Every
lane
minute,
is?
right? Like, I'm trying to tell you to kill as many creep camps a minute as you possibly can, right? Within reason. You know, don't get yourself killed. But, like, look at the opponent. Are they invading your jungle at all? Like, who cares if you have half health? I don't care. Like, they're not invading you. Like, the only reason you'd be scared of having half health is if you're afraid of them actually killing you. And if you really look at it, they're not killing you. So, instead, you go into their jungle. I have no other way to word it than right now I would just have probably 2.5 times your CS. Like,
Yeah.
I think the way you played the lane is fine. I think maxing out the beam was a bit too much. And then your mindset on when to take fights. Like, you are recognizing correctly that you are strong enough to fight. But just know why you're fighting. And it'll help you a lot more to be like, if I'm fighting to get creeps, then by all means I'm going to kill creeps. And then if I have nothing else to do, I'll go fight them. If no towers have to be taken for you to be winning the farm battle, we don't need towers. I don't care about pressuring a tower. It's like, if the way the map looks right now benefits me farming more than it benefits them, then I'm just going to make sure no objectives are taken. Like, if, by all means, if 4 heroes on their team show up mid, I'm walking at that bottom tower and killing it. We're talking at like 10 minutes in, right? Like, I'm going to stop what I'm doing to quickly kill that tower because I'm a Luna. I wouldn't tell you to do that if you're an anti-mage, right?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So this Templar assassin with the Aegis, she really wants to be pushing high ground right now, right? So
Yeah, she's fucking bonkers.
how do I? It's kind of a hard question, but how do I tell her I can't do it, right? Like, I'm forced into these situations because my team will feed. She'll push high ground, no matter what, right?
My only approach to this has literally been, like, guys, like, I'm farming items. Like, if you want to push without me, go ahead. I'll say, like, I'm not there. And if the guy bitches at me, I actually just mute him. Like, if you are confident in what your game's supposed to look like, and somebody else is telling you how to play your hero, I just don't believe in it. Like, I think that's bullshit. Like, I look at this game and I'm like, you're farming, you could be farming every camp every fucking minute. And instead you're walking high ground? Like, it just doesn't, you have a mag, you have, like, Phoenix scales insanely well. You're a Luna, you know, you'll have 6 slots at 30 minutes, you know, like, I'm telling you, like, you can't necessarily convince this TA of this mid-game, right? But, like, if you're just not at this push, and you communicate very clearly to your team that you're not at this push, there's nothing else you can really do. Like, if they're going to walk high ground, like, it's not better for you. A lot of times I'll say it's, like, better to do the right thing as 5 than it is to, like, do the wrong thing as 4 or whatever. But, like, those are the cases where I don't really have much else I can do. Like, what I mean by that is, like, if I'm a Legion and I don't think it's right to go high ground, but if I'm not going high ground with my team, I'm just, like, hitting a camp as a Legion, it's like, I guess I'll go high ground with them and push W, you know? But, like, if you're not with your team right now, you're literally getting 20 CS a minute. Like, you're actually just killing a bajillion creeps right now. So, that's how I determine whether or not my team can dictate what I do. It's like, if I'm just doing something else and it just doesn't mean anything, I'll just show up with my team even if I don't agree with them. But, like, if I know I'm getting a shit ton done just by not being with my team, and they insist on me being with them, and I don't like it, I'm just not going to go. Like, I just refuse. I think you're ruining your own game for them, and I think it's, like, a decent mindset you have. But, like, this is just, like... You will win 100% of games if you're 6-slotted at 30 minutes. You will just win. You will win. This is a, you know, if we lose this fight, suddenly it's an even game. That's what, like, this looks like to me. You guys just blew Aegis, like, you're dead. You should be getting 20 CS a minute. This is, like, effectively 40 creeps you've lost, because you're dead for, you know, a minute and a half or whatever, that including the time you took to push. You're going, like, this Ags push build. Like, why the fuck don't you just have, like, Manta, Hurricane Bite, BKB Satanic, and you just don't, or Butterfly Satanic, and they literally can't fucking touch you. Like, they can't do anything. If you have those items, like, how do they ever kill you? I can't. Meaning, like, if you're farmed at a decent rate, like, you have those items at 35 minutes, Like, if you have those items at 50, they can kill you. But, like, if you have those items at 35, they're never killing you. Like, they just don't possess the ability to kill you. They can't focus you. You have a Phoenix behind, you have a Mag behind, they can't focus you. So, I'm portraying to you the way I would think about this game, and you choosing to play with your team, and it's kind of funny. Not often do I look at carry players, and I think this is your attempt to adjust to the meta. You know, you're like saying, I know this is a fight meta, I'm going to try to fight with my team. I get that. I see what you're doing. So the different perspective that I'm giving you for the early game is you're only fighting if you don't like what the game looks like. You know? Yeah, like that's a description I got. And I think you can agree with me if you watch this game back at like 8 minutes, you had like the freest game in the history of the planet.
Yeah.
Like you could have had 3 items right now. You could have had Manta Hurricane Pike on top of this Helm Dom. Like you could have had this at 22 minutes. And then you're literally never dying. And then you're killing faster and faster creep camps, right? You're moving faster, you hit harder. Like the camps are dying even faster now. And the second Aegis, the game's just over. Like you're gonna get the second Aegis, you're gonna put your treads in your backpack, you're gonna have Hurricane Pike, Manta, Butterfly, Satanic, and a Helm Dom, and you're gonna walk the high ground. Like, and how are they ever gonna kill you? Like, yeah, that's how I look at this game with the start you had. So I know I said I was gonna cut this game a bit short, but I think this was actually a good little tidbit of a lesson to add on top of the Anti-Mage game. So notice in the Anti-Mage game, I said your goal was to farm lanes. So if you were ever going for kills, and you killed the guy, I was like, what are you going to do after? And you're like, well, I'm probably just going to farm the golden XP there. I'm like, exactly. So it's like on Luna, what am I trying to accomplish? You know, if you're in a game where you think as Luna you don't scale that well or something, and you think it's best that you punish the early game, like what if that carries an Anti-Mage? You should be much more inclined to maybe push buildings there, right? You know, but in this case, like they just don't have a hard carry. Wraith King's just not going to outscale you because you're going to farm way faster than he is, and then you with 3 items is way more powerful than him with Radiance plus, 1 item. Like, it's just way more powerful. So, yeah, I just look at it as, think about why you're fighting, what are the accomplishment of kills, and if it doesn't actually change anything for you, there's just no reason to be at the kills. And the emphasis on this game was, even if you're fighting for farm, like that's why you would fight them, if you've killed all the farm already, my excuse for showing up to fights at that point is there's just nothing else for me to do right now. Like, hey, I killed all the creeps already, so I guess I'll show up to this conveniently, like this is nice. A bonus 200 gold on the minute mark that I killed all the creeps already. So yeah, just definitely the perspective on whether or not you farm your own lane. In that case, like, we obviously want to farm our lanes as often as possible, but there are plenty of games where farming our own safe lane is actually inefficient, right? And this was a perfect example. Just think about those things. So it's like all these things apply differently every game, and I just want you to think about that to yourself when moving forward. So, do you have any final questions before we wrap up this session?
Thanks, man. This was pretty insightful.
An earful, huh?
You gave me a lot.
Yeah, I did. So sometimes sessions go longer than others. This one, we had a unique point to talk about drafting and stuff. So hope you enjoyed the session, man. Hope everyone watched, enjoyed, and have a good one, man.